Kia ora koutou katoa, hello semuanya, hola a todos. Hey, I'm going to make this video today about language learning, and it follows on from the video I made a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, called my top 10 language learning tips. Those were very broad and varied, being that there were 10 of them. Today I'm going to go over 5 that are somewhat more specific, and many or maybe even most of them connect to or relate to those first 10, but they take it to a bit more of a practical, specific piece of advice. The very first one is you've got to spend time. I suggest 1 hour a day minimum on the language you're learning. What you've got to do, what's more important is the frequency. So doing the same amount of time, if it's 1 hour, preferably. If it's less, that's fine, but whatever it is, frequency is more effective and important than doing a big block of time once a week or even once a fortnight. All right, so half an hour a day trumps 3 hours every Friday or Saturday, you know what I mean? You can divide that into different activities, and it might even be in 2 half-hour lots. Like you might do half an hour early in the morning and find another half an hour in the evening. That's fine. And my suggestion is 20 minute 3 blocks of 20 minutes. So 20 minutes is just passive listening, all right? And you can be doing other things in that time, all right? You could be doing the dishes, you could be cooking, you could be tidying the house, you could be driving, and you're going to listen to a podcast or you're going to listen to some music in the language you're learning. Don't expect to understand it all. Don't even focus on it. Just have it there. It's passive. Things may pop out at you. You might pick a word here or there. You recognize that, or a sentence pattern structure might repeat, and you start to pick up on it. So there's a sweet spot between passive and active. You know, if you sit down and study it and focus on listening for 20 minutes, well, that's a form of study. That's fine, but equally passive listening can be really good. And the beauty of passive listening, so if you've got headphones, you could be doing it when you're running. You could, like I say, you could be cooking, you could be driving. It's quite easy to do. Another 20 minutes might be communicating with people, friends, family, or people, chat friends online. You're writing messages back and forth. Might only be just daily stuff. How are you? What are you doing? What are you up to today? Then another 20 minutes could be, you're focusing on some vocabulary or grammar, or working on an app that you're using to study your language. So if you think of it in these smaller parts, I think 1 hour is quite doable. So you've got to spend time. The second thing,
watch YouTube videos in your target language, but slow them down.
Go to the settings. There's a little asterisk. Typically people go there to raise the picture quality to HD or whatever. But in that same set of options, when you click on it, you can go to playback speed. If you drop it to 0.75, which is 3/4 of the normal speed, because the default will be normal, of course, you will notice that it will take the edge off the speed that people are speaking at in a really effective way. Like if you drop that speed, you're going to notice a significant improvement in your understanding. So it might jump to 60 or 70%. You still may miss quite a lot, but your ability to understand will definitely go up. Third point, make content, make videos, make an audio podcast or something like that. If only for your own practice in my different languages, singing songs in Indonesian or Spanish. I enjoy that, so I did it primarily out of enjoyment, and I considered it a form of language practice. But when I mentioned that to Olivia and I said, I tend to remember vocabulary that I've used in videos or whatever more because, and I didn't really understand why, I just knew that was the case. She says, perhaps the pressure of knowing that people are going to hear it and see it, helps you focus, helps you remember, and understand these words better. Basically, it's like focusing a lens on a camera. Like if you're going to create something that people are going to see and hear, even if it's only a short 20-second clip, all of a sudden it really matters, and you make sure that you can say it correctly, that you are using the right words. And that stuff tends to stick, as opposed to just memorizing things for the sake of it and hoping you'll remember it by luck. So creating content is a really effective extra boost to your ability. Fourth tip. This is difficult, but really important. Although good grammar in our target language is the goal, and we're striving towards it, we're working hard on it, don't be afraid of crude or primitive sentences, both in spoken word and in writing messages or posts or whatever. Don't be afraid to just use the key words that you know. You may not know all of the words that join, that put things together in a more eloquent manner, but don't be afraid to just say what you know. At the end of the day, language is about communicating messages, and we get the message across. Alright, so if you, like for example in English, to say a proper full sentence, I might say, tomorrow morning I'm going to go to work. Alright, I've got a complete sentence. Tomorrow morning I'm going to go to work. If I only knew tomorrow, go, work, and said, tomorrow, go work, alright, yes it's crude, yes it's primitive, but did you understand it, or would you understand it if you're an English speaker? Tomorrow, go work. Okay? If you can get your message across even in a primitive way, don't be afraid of it. You can have a bit of fun with it. Clearly, the listener, if they're a native speaker, is going to realize that that's an incomplete sentence. But we've got to get over our shyness and awkwardness around stuff like that and just communicate. Now, I do suggest this though, because we can form bad habits if we do it completely without thought. So I think it's important though that we can find a middle ground and concentrate perhaps on putting those words in the right order at the very least. If we're not going to join them together seamlessly with all of the small words and in between, alright, the least we can do is get them in order. So my example was tomorrow I'm going to go to work, then I would concentrate tomorrow. Okay, then go, that's a verb, work, noun, whatever. So put the words at least in the right order. Adding to that point or that tip, don't be afraid to use, to borrow, to grab a word from your native language if you need it. Whether or not the listener understands your language, I mean, if they do, it helps. But grabbing a word from your native language should not be seen as something to avoid at all costs, or even to be seen as a failure or awkward. Just grab the word. But what you can do for yourself is just make at least a mental note. If you're in a conversation, you're not going to want to stop and write it down. But if you're in conversation, see if you can make a mental note about that word, those words that you had to resort to your native language with, and look them up later and try and remember them or whatever. If you're doing it, if it's online and you're typing the chat or texting or whatever, then you've got time to, I don't know that word, I can look it up now. And so, but don't be afraid to use primitive sentences. That could be wrong. Don't worry about it. And use words from your native language if you need to. Yeah. Number 5, last but not least, I think it's more profound than we'd like to admit. You have to believe that what you're doing will work. It's inevitable. With time, effort, and strategies that may change, twist and turn as we go along. But with time, effort, and strategy, the result is success. It just is. All right? You have to actually believe that, because the reason I'm saying this is because many of us, I believe, we enter into language learning. We might have been saying for years, I really want to learn French. I really want to speak Maori. I really want to, learn English if you're a non-English speaker, obviously. But we sort of half-heartedly step into it, not really truly believing that it'll work, or that one day in the foreseeable future we'll be able to speak that language or communicate in the language. It's super important that you believe in what you're doing. Like I say, time plus effort plus strategy equals success for anybody. Forget all that has got talent, hasn't got talent. Language learning is a gift for talented people, or worse, you can't learn a language properly if you're not a kid. That's a common fallacy. We need to believe that we can do it because, well, quite simply, we can. It's just a fact. All right. But there are a whole lot of barriers that we have consciously and subconsciously that stop us believing that. Then I don't know the numbers, but I'm sure there's many a person has gone into a language course, night class, even a full-time study course perhaps, with the intention of learning the language and not truly believing that they will. Now, whether they're conscious of that or not, that'll vary. But anyway, those are my 5 extra language learning tips based on a mixture of experience, of learning from others, of advice given by others. I haven't invented any of these things, obviously. They're just my experience mainly. I'm not a linguist. I'm not a language expert. I haven't studied languages. I'm just a language lover and learner who's on the journey like you may be as well. So anyway, I hope that was in some way insightful. And yeah, good luck. All the best. Kia ora.